Hi, I'm Dr. Teresa A. Smith, Dr. Taz, and I want to say thank you to our marvelous host. When I think of gratitude, now on, I'm going to always think of her. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name because I believe if I do, I will be doing it incorrectly. And she has been a godsend to me. So I just want to say again, thank you so much for all of your help. And hello to my fellow warriors. When I started to prepare for today's session, I thought about all the things that I've been through. And I thought if I could pinpoint one time in life where I realized how much gratitude would make the difference, what would it be? And I thought back to 2025. And I'm not going to give you all the details about 2025, but I want to kind of paint a picture. And I've got a few notes here because 2025 was a different sort of year for me. It started off great, and then somewhere along the line, it went left. And it took all that I had to bring it back center. So I just want to share a little bit of that with you. For a long time, I thought silence meant not speaking, not sharing, not showing up, not being visible, not using your voice. But in 2025, I really began to understand that it was something different. It was more involved than that. Sometimes silence looks like becoming disconnected from yourself. And that's what happened in 2025. I found that I was no longer almost living in my body. It was as if somebody else was living my day-to-day life. And at some point, I realized, oh my God, something is wrong. Because there was a season when I couldn't even leave my house. I couldn't leave the house. I wanted to go out and walk the neighborhood. I couldn't leave the house. And it was a slow progression. I didn't realize it until it was like, go walk. I couldn't. And so then I began to take an assessment of what was happening with me. And I realized I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. Everything that once was normal, none of that was functioning correctly anymore. I was really off balance. Years ago, I'd had gastric sleeve surgery. And when I went to see the nutritionist during that time, it's like, I'm gaining weight. That was the issue. I said, I'm gaining weight. And she's like, well, what are you eating? I'm like, well, I'm eating. Well, she said, well, let me give you a diary. So she gave me a food diary. And when I went back to see her with my diary, she told me, you're eating about 500 calories a day. I said, 500 calories a day? She said, yeah. And I thought I was overeating. But I wasn't eating enough. So then we began to look at some of the symptoms that I was having because she's like, your body is crashing. And I thought, okay. So one day my mind is foggy. I couldn't focus anymore. I couldn't think clearly. It was like I could no longer show up as the person that I knew I was. So then I went through this stage where I was crying. I couldn't stop crying. And I cried all the time. I cried when I was doing interviews, and I knew that I had been crying. That was before I couldn't leave the house, but I didn't understand why I was crying. Well, then the crying increased. And so I spoke with a therapist, and we realized what was happening to me. I was totally overwhelmed by life. And so we decided that I had to step away. I stepped away from my job for 3 months. I stepped away from social media. I stepped away from expectations that others may have had and the pressure that I had to get everything done. I couldn't leave anything out. Everything had to get done. At first, I felt like I was taking a step back. But then I realized the most important thing was that I needed a season that was not producing. I needed a season that was about me, that wasn't about anybody else. But I'm going to tell you a secret. I didn't know how to live in that season. because I'd never had a season where it was just about me. So this was very foreign to me. I didn't know what to do. So then it was like, okay, so you got to live in this space now. You got to live in this skin. How do you do that? And, you know, I always talk about resilience, and I talk even more about boundaries now and taking care of yourself. So it's like, Taz, how are you going to take care of you? So I had to stop trying to prove that I was okay. By pushing through, we're going to push through it, whatever the cost. Pushing through, we're going to get it done. I had to understand that sometimes the expectations were unrealistic, and that really I was placing those unrealistic expectations on myself. It was not about so much what other people were doing. Yeah, I will say there were some outside pressures, but I controlled me. So it was about how I absorbed the expectations. I could have looked at them differently, but I didn't. And so then I realized that somehow in my mind, I started measuring my worth by my productivity. And I thought, so that would mean if you're not productive, you don't have any worth? Oh no, we know that was not the case. So then I'm like, okay, so what are you going to do? Because I'm like, you understand what the problem is. How do you now get out of this? And so I began to think about, you know, the struggle that I had been in. You know, I was exhausted. There was some fear there. I wasn't grateful for that, but I was grateful for the lesson that the circumstances were teaching me. And that's a whole different mindset, because I'm not saying I'm glad that happened, because I'm not. But I'm grateful that I was able to learn some lessons from the situation that I put myself in and allowed life to put me in. So I became grateful for what was being revealed to me, like how much I needed rest, how disconnected I really had become from who I was at the essence, my core, what my needs were, and that I needed to, you know, give myself grace. You know, I show compassion to other people, but charity starts at home, and I got to show that same compassion to myself first in order to pour into someone else. And I'm like, oh, that's a part of being grateful. And I'm like, well, I guess it is. So then I began to realize that gratitude was allowing me to reconnect, not to the woman that I used to be, but to the woman I was becoming. Now, let me do a little spoiler alert. Healing does not always return us to who we were. And I don't know if I want to go back to that person. Well, I know I don't want to go back to that person, because she was sick. She was sick emotionally. She was sick psychologically. She was sick physically. I don't want to go back to her. I want to become a better version of myself. So sometimes healing helps to introduce something new for us. Hopefully it's going to be a wiser, maybe a gentler, maybe more intentional person who understands, like I'm having to still work through, that self-care really is not selfish. I know it intellectually, but can I practice that daily with intention? Because it's necessary. So today when I think about visible, I don't think about the stages. I don't think about interviews. I don't think about my books. I don't think about the social media. I think about willing to see myself clearly and honor my needs while telling the truth about my journey. It is up and down every day, but I keep me in the forefront of my mind so that I don't lose me again. And I'm extending myself grace. I think about myself, you know, I'm going to show up authentically, even when life has been hard, even when I have not been good to myself. I'm going to still show up, and I'm going to tell you, I haven't done good, you know, because I don't want anyone to think that it's an easy thing to do, particularly if that's your struggle point. And that's my struggle point. So I understand now that becoming visible really starts within me. It's not about the external. It's about what's in me. And that before the world can either see or hear me, I got to see me. I got to hear me. And I've got to honor that person. I am the only person that can validate her. Nobody else can validate her. So life tried to silence me. Exhaustion almost got me. Fear tried to settle in. But gratitude helped me to find my way back to Teresa. And perhaps that is an invitation for all of us today to thank the woman who survived and kept going and welcome the woman we're still becoming. I want to invite you to settle down. If you like me, you've been running all day long, and it's time for a moment of reframe. And I call this the Gratitude Reframe. So I want you to center yourself, and I invite you to take a slow breath. If you're comfortable, place your hand over your heart. Breathe in, breathe out. For a moment, I want you to think about a season that challenged you, a season that tested you, a season that could have broken you. Breathe in, breathe out. Now think about the version of yourself that lived through the season. The version that got up when she didn't feel like getting up. The version that kept going when she didn't have all the answers. The version that carried responsibilities, fears, disappointments, and uncertainty. Take a moment. I want you to breathe deeply. And then slowly exhale. Take a moment to silently thank her. Thank her for surviving, for staying, for not giving up on you. Now consider this question. Where have I been hiding because of what happened to me? Maybe you've hidden your voice, hidden your gifts, hidden your dreams, hidden parts of yourself that deserve to be seen. Without judgment, simply acknowledge it. Breathe in, breathe out slowly. Now ask yourself, what is one way I can stop hiding today? Is it a conversation? Is it an opportunity? One act of courage. One step toward becoming visible again. As we close, silently repeat these words. I am grateful for the woman I have become. I'm grateful for the strength I discovered. I'm grateful for the lessons I learned along the way. I'm grateful that my story is not over. I'm grateful that my voice still matters. I am grateful that I have the opportunity to still become. Take one final breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. As you return to the room, I want you to hold on to one thing. The woman who survived deserves your gratitude. Not because she did everything perfectly, because she didn't always get it right. It wasn't that she didn't struggle, but because she kept going. Sometimes we spend so much time focusing on where we want to be that we forget to honor how far we have come. Today, I'll tell you, I don't have everything figured out, but I learned that healing is not a destination. Instead, it's a practice. It's an intentional practice. So is rest, boundaries, self-compassion, and taking care of yourself. There was a time when I thought becoming visible meant being seen by other people. Today, I understand that becoming visible begins when we stop hiding from ourselves, when we tell ourselves the truth, honor what we need, and give ourselves permission to heal. We recognize our worth is not tied to our productivity and choose to show up as we are, not as we think we should be. Before we leave, I want you to remember this. Life may have changed you, challenged you, and even exhausted you, but life did not erase you. You are still here. Your voice and your purpose still remain. And the next chapter of your story is still being written. Thank you for allowing me to share a piece of myself with you. And remember, before you go trying to take care of someone else, make sure you take care of yourself first. Bye now. Thank you again for joining me.